My wife brought another man to our bed and said, "I'm opening our marriage. If you have a problem, you can leave." I packed my entire life and vanished before morning. 3 days later, I heard the news that left everyone speechless. My wife was gone. Chapter 1. I'm opening our marriage. The night it happened, nothing felt unusual. That's what made it worse. I had just finished cleaning up after dinner, chicken parmesan, her favorite. She'd barely touched her plate, said she had no appetite. Her phone buzzed a few times, screen tilted away from me. I didn't ask. I'd stopped asking months ago. At 9:42 p.m., she stood up, stretched dramatically, and walked toward the hallway. But instead of going to the bedroom like usual, she opened the front door, and in stepped a man I had never seen before. He was tall, muscular, tan, dressed casually, but confident like he'd been here before. I stood there confused. Can I help you?" My wife didn't flinch. She smiled. "Babe, this is David. He'll be staying over tonight." I blinked. "What?" She crossed her arms. "I'm opening our marriage. It's something I've thought about for a while. David makes me feel alive. And I think we've grown apart." David nodded, casually, slipping off his shoes like this was some Airbnb. My heart felt like it was being crushed inside my chest. "You're serious?" She chuckled, like I'd asked if it was raining outside. "If you have a problem, you can leave. I won't stop you." I stood frozen. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even ask. She just decided. In that moment, I saw everything so clearly. The distant months, the hidden phone, the random cold shoulders, the late work meetings. All of it. I didn't argue. I didn't curse. I didn't even look at David again. I walked to our bedroom, picked up my duffel bag from the top shelf, packed 3 shirts, a pair of jeans, my toothbrush, and my passport. I slipped off my wedding ring and placed it gently on her vanity. Then, without a word, I walked out the back door, left my car, took an Uber to a cheap motel 2 towns over, paid in cash, slept with the TV on. I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I planned because this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Chapter 2. Ghosted. The motel room smelled like bleach and forgotten dreams. I lay awake most of that first night, staring at the cracked ceiling, letting my mind unravel everything. No calls, no texts. Not that I expected any. She'd made it clear I was disposable. By morning, I'd made 3 decisions. I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't explain myself to anyone. I would disappear completely. I called my boss and requested an urgent leave. He approved without question. I didn't tell him why. I didn't tell anyone why. Then I opened a private browser and began scrubbing my digital presence, bank login, cloud backups, GPS tracking, linked accounts. I transferred a large chunk of money into a new private account under a trust name I'd established years ago when I briefly considered launching a business. It was time to use it within 48 hours. I had a burner phone, a new mailing address, P.O. box in a different state, and all my essential files moved offline. I even rerouted my paycheck. I became a ghost. Meanwhile, my wife posted a cute boomerang of herself and David sipping wine in our kitchen. She captioned it, "New Beginnings." The comments were full of heart emojis and fake cheers from people who used to call me the nicest guy ever. Not one person asked where I went. Not one. It stung, but it also sharpened me. Pain has a way of carving clarity. On the 3rd night, I booked a flight out of state under a different name. But right before I boarded, I received a single text from an unknown number. "She's missing." That was it. No name, no punctuation. Just 2 words that cracked everything open again. I stared at the screen, heart racing. Was it a trap? A mistake? A sick joke? Or had karma already begun her slow, merciless dance? Chapter 3. The Vanishing. At first I thought it was a prank, some twisted attempt to lure me back into the chaos I'd escaped, but the message replayed in my head again and again. She's missing. By morning, I checked the local news out of habit, and there it was. Local woman reported missing, last seen. Leaving her home with a friend, the photo was of her, my wife, smiling, carefree, wearing the same sweater she'd been in the night I walked out. My stomach twisted. I knew immediately the friend was David. According to the brief article, they had been seen driving toward the coast for a quick weekend trip. The car was later found abandoned in a rest stop parking lot. No one had seen them since. For a long moment, I just sat there in silence, letting the irony sink in. The woman who told me to leave if I had a problem had vanished only 3 days after I did. Then came the phone calls. Her mother called me first, her voice trembling. "Ethan, please, have you heard from her?" "They can't find her," the police said. I hung up. I couldn't stomach the hypocrisy. Then came the text from her friends. "You need to talk to the detectives. They think you might know something. People are saying you were jealous that you left angry. What did you do to her?" I didn't respond to any of them because while they were panicking, I was watching quietly from a distance. You see, I had been preparing for this long before she ever said, "I'm opening our marriage." I'd known something wasn't right for months. The secret messages, the late nights, the fake family visits. So, I had installed a silent digital backup on our shared accounts, one that logged her transactions and messages. And now, as I sifted through the data, something else emerged, something darker. Wire transfers, 3 to be exact, from her to David. Amount small enough to go unnoticed, but together totaling nearly $60,000. Money that came from our joint account. But here's where it got stranger. 2 of those payments went to a fake business registered under a name that didn't exist before last month. A shell company, a front, and the address tied to it, a storage unit outside the city. That's where I went next. The unit manager recognized her photo instantly. Yeah, she was here with a guy last week, paid cash for a 6-month rental, left in a hurry. I asked to see the contents. Inside, under a dusty tarp, were stacks of electronics, sealed packages, and burner phones, and one envelope with my name written in her handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "You always said you'd never leave me. If you're reading this, I guess you finally did. Don't look for me. You wouldn't survive what I got involved in." I stared at the words for a long time. That's when I understood. She wasn't missing, she was running. And this time, she wasn't running from me. She was running from something or someone much worse. Chapter 4. What she really did. The letter haunted me. Don't look for me. You wouldn't survive what I got involved in. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't love. It was a warning, cold, calculated, and almost rehearsed. Which made me wonder what exactly had she gotten involved in. I returned to the storage unit the next morning with gloves and a burner phone of my own. The cops might have been looking for her, but I wasn't ready to talk to them yet, especially when they might think I had a reason to want her gone. Inside that storage unit were receipts, serial numbers, scratched off electronics, and manila folders full of printed spreadsheets. But one folder was different. It had photos. Photos of me sitting on the porch, drinking coffee, leaving work, filling gas. They weren't from our home cameras. They were taken by someone following me. And in the back of the folder was a copy of my passport, bank records, and an old tax return. I froze. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just betrayal. She was setting me up. The timeline unfolds. I began piecing it all together like a puzzle. A few months ago, she convinced me to open a joint investment account, promising we'd start a retirement fund together. Around the same time, our joint credit line ballooned. But the purchases weren't mine. A shell company was created under my name, using fake credentials supposedly for consulting services. That company had been flagged in a federal report for possible cyber fraud laundering. In other words, someone was using my identity to commit white-collar crimes, and all the digital fingerprints traced back to me. All while she disappeared, clean, unless she didn't disappear. Then came the break. A voicemail came through my burner later that night. Scrambled number. "You don't know what you walked away from, Ethan. She lied to all of us and now she's gone. But if I were you, I'd disappear." 2. Before the people she scammed decide you're the loose end. Click. That was David's voice. And it wasn't angry, it was terrified. So I went quiet. I scrubbed everything, changed phones, froze all accounts, contacted an old college roommate who now worked for a cybercrime task force anonymously. But I still watched the news, and that's when her face came back. FBI seeks assistance, woman wanted in connection with multi-state identity theft ring. It was her. She'd been working with a ring, posing as a couple with David, using charm and fake romance to get close to wealthy men and forge accounts under their names. David wasn't her new love. He was her partner in crime. But the best part? The FBI now had video surveillance from the storage facility. She hadn't worn gloves. She didn't wipe down her digital trail. And I had handed them everything from the folders to the hidden transfers, all anonymously. Her world wasn't just collapsing, it was going to burn. Chapter 5. The Knock at My Door. 3 days after the news broke, I got a knock on the door. Not the police, not the FBI, not David. It was her mother. She looked nothing like the cold woman I'd known for years. Her hands trembled, eyes puffy, voice cracking. "Ethan, they're saying she's dead." I didn't flinch, didn't speak. "They found a body, they burned beyond recognition, but the dental records," she stopped, struggling. "They say it's her, but something didn't add up. Just 2 weeks ago, my ex was orchestrating cyber fraud like a Wall Street wolf. She was careful, calculated, and now she's dead. No chance, not without making sure the world believed she was." I nodded at her mother, offering condolences I didn't mean. Then I checked the FBI hotline again. No confirmation. Just a person of interest presumed deceased. Presumed. That's not closure, that's misdirection. The real twist, later that night, I received a package, no return address, inside a cheap burner phone already powered on. One message, "You won, but don't think I'm gone. The game just changed." She never signed anything that way, unless that wasn't her. I took the phone apart. Deep inside, beneath the battery, was a micro SD card encrypted. Luckily, I still had friends in the right places. By the next day, the card revealed hundreds of documents, not just about me, but at least 9 other men, all defrauded, all left behind with wrecked finances, broken marriages, or criminal investigations. She wasn't working alone. She was running her own network, and now someone else was sending me a warning. And then came the redemption. With everything I'd found, I handed the files to the Cybercrime Task Force officially this time. They opened a national investigation. 3 arrests were made in other states, my name cleared, my financials restored. Even my old company, whose CEO, my ex-wife's father, had fired me out of nepotism, collapsed in an insider trading scandal weeks later. He never recovered. She disappeared, and David, found in a luxury motel in Vegas, overdosed but survived, and facing federal charges. Epilogue, the lesson they never saw coming. They mocked me, called me boring, weak, predictable, but they forgot one thing. You don't play long games with a man who knows how to disappear and still fight from the shadows. I never raised my voice, never begged for justice. I just waited until their greed destroyed itself. Final thought for the audience: some people think revenge means rage, but true revenge, it's patience, precision, poetic, and when it lands, it leaves silence. If this story made you feel something, anger, hope, suspense, satisfaction, reflection, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because sometimes the nobodies are just waiting to become legends. Until next time, stay sharp, stay hidden, stay human. Was this revenge perfectly justified, or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice, and share this story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Lauren's Story, because here, betrayals don't sleep. They hunt their owners. Every shadow hides a reckoning. Every mask breaks and every betrayal is answered. Stay sharp, stay unbroken.